In Sefer Mishlei, Perek Chavbet, chapter 22, in the middle of the chapter, Pasuk Yud Daled. Shucha amuka pi zarot, ze'om Adonai yipol sham. Literal translation: the mouth of a strange woman, according to some, zarot means the strange woman, is like a deep pit. The one who is abhorred or hated by Hashem will fall there. There's two explanations for this pasuk: either a strange woman, or minut, apikorsut, heresy. This was a big problem in certain periods of our history. The many Jews, because they were exposed to certain philosophies, reading certain materials, attending certain schools, befriending the certain parts of society, they were influenced by these alien philosophies, alien ideas, and as a result they became more and more assimilated to the ways of the Goyim and also more detached from Judaism. You can't dance on two weddings at the same time. You can't be equally attached, at least fervently, to Judaism and also to something which is completely alien to Judaism, and that is minut, apikorsut, which leads to avodah zarah, heresy. And what he's saying over here, according to the opinion that holds that this is talking about heresy, which he mentioned several times, the dangers of it. Here, there's an extra emphasis or a reminder that whoever gets caught in the trap will have a hard time letting go of it. Once the ideas have invaded or contaminated the mind of an individual, especially once he's an older man, communist, who's been exposed to communism ideas for so long, to get him now to reprogram himself is very difficult. It really is very difficult for those who are in their 50s and 60s who've been indoctrinated with all these alien ideas, now to make them understand that everything that they were instructed to is false, it's far from being true. It's difficult. And that is why he says, Yipol sham, he who is exposed to it will fall. He will have a hard time getting out of it. Because it's like a bor, it's like a, or here he calls it a shucha amuka, a deep pit. Just like from a deep pit you can't get easily out. Same thing with whoever is exposed to this kind of material. There's a famous story that is brought down, I forget who mentions it, that happened not too long ago in Europe. There used to be individuals who used to sell their wares, their merchandise, in the Bate Knesset, in the shuls, after the prayers, of course, or after the class. They used to set up a table. There was one such man who came to a shul, and after everybody was done praying, he put out a table with all his books that he was selling, used books, new books, whatever. The rabbi comes over to the table to see what kind of material he's selling, and sure enough, he notices that at least some of it is minut, it's apikorsut. It's heresy. It's against the Torah. And he says, how could you be selling this to Jews? How could you be exposing them to this? He says, Rabbi, that's my parnasah. That is my livelihood. That's what I sell. What do you want me to do? I'm not going to have parnasah. He says, I have a better idea for you. You want a job? Is that what you're looking for? I have a job for you. Come back tomorrow, and I'm going to take you to your new job. Fine. Next morning, the man appears for Shachrit. After Shachrit, he goes with the rabbi. And as they're going down the street, the man asks the rabbi, by the way, what's the job all about? Can you describe me what's involved? He says, yeah. See, recently at the church, the guy who rings the bell retires. You know, they ring the bells when it's time to come to mass or whatever services. The guy who used to ring the bell just retired, and they're looking for a new man, and I thought that you would be able to take that job. Rabbi, me to go to a church, to ring the bells, to call people to come to church? You want me to take that job? But that's exactly what you're doing when selling these books. When you are selling these books, you are ringing the bells of heresy for the Jews to come and buy and absorb these ideas. Isn't that the same thing? And I guess the rest of the story is he probably got him a normal job. People don't realize the dangers of reading certain things that are not only full of lies, full of garbage, novels that never, what's a novel? It never happened. It's just a figment of the imagination of the author. Why waste your time? It's also Bitul Torah. You could be reading many other things that are more beneficial. Besides the fact that the way many things are written these days is not very healthy for the mind. But here we're talking about especially apikorsut, especially minut, heresy, which can be very, very dangerous to one's neshama. The commentaries explain, based on the pirush, based on the peshat, that we're talking about heresy. The heresy is the shuha mukah, the deep pit. Ze'um Hashem yipol sham, the one Hashem abhors, the one Hashem hates will fall. What does that mean? Hashem will let certain individuals actually fall for it. Many times Hashem illuminates our way, sends us a signal, stops us, and then there are many ways Hashem can do that. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, somebody comes up, what are you doing here? Why are you reading this? Out of nowhere. And that was only Hashemayim, of course. We believe that everything is Hashemayim. But one who has completely sunk in this, who is completely after this, HaKadosh Baruch Hu abhors him. He may let him fall into this trap so that he does not come out of it. Hashem allows him to make the mistake if Hashem does not like this individual. Hashem does not want him to come out of it. He just lets him fall into the trap. That's according to the first pirush. According to the second pirush, the second interpretation of this pasuk, that we're talking about a strange woman, not a modest woman, not one's wife, obviously. It's a pi zarot, a woman that one should not be associating with, not being involved too much. There's also the danger of the pituyim, of being seduced, of being enticed, of being misled. Because women have this power of ensnaring, as they say, one in their net. And that's also a shuha amuka, and that's also a deep pit. We're not talking about all women, we're talking about just one who's of course does not have the right kavanot, the right intentions, and one who is innocent, who's unaware, may fall in this trap. And that of course is also dangerous. That also causes a whole different set of problems, regardless of whether one is single or married, and if she's a goya, that's another set of problems. So Ze'um Hashem yipol sham, according to the second interpretation, HaKadosh Baruch Hu hates, abhors those who allow themselves to fall in this trap. Be careful. Take the necessary precautions that you don't fall into this trap. Stay away from her, and don't take any chances. As the rabbis tell us in Apotrophos le'arayot, when it comes to immoral acts, nobody can claim that he's safe. Nobody can say it will not happen to me. If the right conditions exist, almost anybody can fall. Therefore, be careful, because if one does fall in something like this, it's very hard to get out of it. Rabbis tell us on this pasuk, I believe it's on this pasuk, because it says the word pizarot, the mouth of the strange, what it could be the strange woman, or the alien philosophies. It's also talking about a mouth that is not clean. They say, whoever fouls his mouth, you know what the word foul means, right? He uses bad language, so he fouls his mouth. Nivul pe, kol hamenabel et piv, ma'amikim lo gehenom. Not only does he go to gehenom, they deepen it for him. He goes down further down, just for the nivul pe. So that's a shucha amuka for him. That's a deep pit for the avon, for the sin of nivul pe, bad mouth or foul mouth. Next pasuk. Ivelet kishura belev na'ar shevet musa yarchikena mimeno. This is also a famous pasuk in Mishlei. And there are various other pesukim that express the same idea. The literal translation over here is, foolishness is bound to a child's heart. It's just a fact that every child, because he's not completely mature, right, he has certain habits, certain instincts, certain inclinations. Here he calls it all of that is called, he calls ivelet. Ivelet means a certain foolishness is bound. Bound means tied to a child's heart. So shevet musar yarchikena mimeno, a rod of discipline will drive it away from him. How do we explain that before? You have to be careful not to hold back the whip, the rod. The rod of discipline needs to be applied at certain times. We're not talking about abusing it. We're not talking about being cruel. Definitely one has to be careful not to overdo it. You don't want to lose the relationship with your child. You want to always have a kesher. You want him always to come home, right? So you have to be very smart in when to apply it. But there is a time for a rod of discipline. And he says the reason why a rod of discipline is necessary is because ivelet keshura belev nar. The foolishness is bound to the child. It's just, what does bound mean? The commentators explain it's like it's part of him. And because it's like part of him, you need to separate it. And how do you separate it? Sometimes with a rod of discipline. That's the only thing that will do it. Why? Because talking to him won't go anywhere. He's not logical yet. He's not mature. So how could you talk to him? You can talk to an adult, and even to adults. Some adults don't understand. You can talk from today till tomorrow, and he just doesn't go. They're stubborn. They're narrow, right? And they never understand. But with an adult, you can't use a shevet musar. Hashem has to do it maybe, but we can't. So with a child, it says sometimes that's what's necessary to remove that which he's bound, that which is bound to him. That's the iveret. What can we do? The reason Shlomo Melech says that we should do that is because some parents give up on the chinuch of their children. The child is endowed with certain midot ra'ot, certain bad characteristics, and they just try everything they can and nothing works. Shlomo Melech reminds us, listen, you know why you shouldn't give up, lo lityaesh? Because what you tried with candies, with all sorts of what's the word?
Bribes.
Or bribes, there's another word for it. With all sorts of ways of enticing, I guess, the child, all the methods that you've studied and you've tried to apply, even though they didn't work, you know what? Don't give up yet, just yet. Why? Because there's something else that may do the job for you. It's called a shevet musar. It's called a rod of discipline. So therefore, if you haven't used that, don't give up yet. That may do the job. Ivelet keshura. The reason why he uses the word keshura, that this foolishness is bound or tied to the child, is because so long as it's only bound during his childhood, you can remove it. You may have some success in removing it with a shevet musar perhaps. Why? Because it's only keshura, it's only bound. What happens in his adult years, it's no longer bound, it's rooted in him. Zikvar mushrash. The moment a habit is already rooted, it's much tougher to kick the habit, like they say in English. It's more difficult. It's rooted. It's become already second nature. Early on, it's only keshura. It's tied. It's pretty tight. Because it's tied, it's bound, it's part of him. But an ivelet that is keshura can be removed through a shevet musar. Later on, it's much more difficult. So therefore, the earlier, the younger the child, the better, the easier it will be to remove it. Next pasuk, Oshek dal leharbot lo noten le'ashirach lemachsor. Let's see how he translates it over here. He who exploits a poor man to increase for himself will give to a rich man only to want. Alright, most commentaries I think divide this pasuk in two. The translation here he appears to be saying it as one. Whether you're trying to take advantage of the poor man, thinking that you can enrich yourself by doing so, Oshek dal. Oshek means to cheat, to rob a poor man by taking advantage of him in order to increase your wealth. Or noten le'ashir, or if you give more money to the wealthy as a bribe, so that he can be on your good side, so that he can repay you a favor in the future. Either of the one, if your kavanah, if your intention is you think you're going to get some benefit out of this, you're in for a big surprise. Ach lemachsor. It will only be for want. In other words, you will be losing instead of gaining. Taking advantage of the poor will not increase one's wealth. Giving to the rich in anticipation, expecting that the rich man will eventually return the favor, just forget about it. It won't happen. It's going to be achre masor. It's a waste of your money by giving the rich. Or the money that was gained in an illicit way. In other words, by cheating the dal, that will of course not be in any way mevurach, will not be blessed, and of course no good will come out of it. On the contrary, he will lose from it. He will become poor. Some people take advantage of those who don't know, who are poor, thinking that they can make more money as a result of that. Shlomo Melech says, no, it doesn't work like that. And we're going to see why very soon. Why people who attempt to do this do not enrich themselves. We must remember at all times that there is a mashgiach. There is a mashgiach in this world. Hashem did not only create the world, He's actually overseeing it, and He's aware of everything. And sometimes we don't see an immediate reaction for an action, but it happens. And we're going to see what that reaction is going to be. What that midah keneged midah will be, measure for measure. Next pasuk, Hatos necha ushma divrei chachamim v'libecha tashit lida'ati. Incline your ear and hearken to the words of the wise, and put your heart to my knowledge. The next, I believe, 3 pesukim, or 4, the next pesukim, Shlomo Melech describes why he wrote this. Why he wrote Mishlei, even though he's told us a little bit about it in the very beginning, what the purpose of all of this, what he's trying to achieve, and how one can gain the most out of this sefer. So pasuk number 1, and it was the first pasuk that he discusses this sefer, or the purpose of what he's telling us, is as follows. Hatos necha ushma divrei chachamim. In order for you to gain anything from what I'm about to tell you, it requires for you to hat oznecha, to pay close attention. This is not a book that you're just going to read through quickly and say, oh, interesting, nice. This is not a book like that. If you want to gain something out of it, and there's a lot to gain from this, hat oznecha, pay close attention to listen to the words of the wise. V'libecha tashit leda'ati. Libecha, in other words, your heart. Put your heart to my knowledge, to all this advice that he's giving us. Put your heart to it, meaning tidbonen. Pay close attention, think about it, reflect upon it. This is very valuable advice. This is not saying, oh, it's nice, it's poetic, it rhymes. No, it has nothing to do with rhyming or being poetic. It may be very well written, it may sound good, but this is real stuff. This is about life we're talking about. Ki na'im ki tishmerem bevitnecha yikonu yahdav al sefatecha. For it is pleasant that you guard them in your innards, that they will be established together on your lips. He says it would be a good thing for one to preserve everything he has learned, to preserve them in one's innards and one's stomach, is another way of saying remember all these words. Don't just read it, memorize them. Yikonu yahdava sefatecha, so that you could always easily verbalize them, express them, talk about them. Because you know what happens when a person memorizes these ideas? When he has them in his innards, like he says, when he remembers them, it's easier for him to apply them in real life. This is not just meant to study. This is not just meant to know. Oh, it's interesting. It makes sense. I agree with it. No, don't you want to apply this? A lot of these ideas are meant to be applied. I mean, all of them are meant to be applied, but some of them especially, if we do not apply them, we can get easily into trouble. So he advises us beforehand, remember these, learn them, think about them, and if you will remember them, if you will be aware of them at all times, so much so that you will be able to easily say it. When one is intimately aware of a certain idea, the chances are better that he can apply it. I mean, for example, I've told you this in the past, I just grabbed a quick example, what the rabbis tell us and they advise us when it comes to one's relationship with one's child or with one's wife. Use your left hand to rebuke, use your right hand to embrace and to kiss. In other words, you want the child to see the two sides. You want him to see that the father is upset, but when you're upset, you're using the left hand, the weaker hand. Right? You're not overdoing it. And when you're using the method of embracing, of reassuring, you're using the right hand, which is the stronger hand. Not only do you need to use that, the right hand, for that, but the rabbis basically mean that in case you did have to use your left hand, that sometimes you do have to say no and refuse, just make sure you use your right hand to reassure that you also care about the individual. Now, if we don't know this saying, if we don't have it in our minds, we may forget ourselves. We may come home, one may be in a bad mood, he might hear from his spouse what the child did, and he might vent his anger. And let's say he vented his anger. Okay, he lost control. He can still repair it by Yamin Mekarevet. But if we don't remember these ideas, if we don't learn them and review them, that he won't remember that that's the way to deal with the child. HaKadosh Baruch Hu only gave the human being a certain amount of intelligence, that with that intelligence we can rationalize, we could learn, we can adapt, we can communicate. That is the basic intelligence that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given to every human being. The problem with this intelligence is that because of the free will that He also gave us, because of the ta'avot, the instincts that we have, because of the tensions, the struggles, that intelligence and that logic is not always strong enough to overcome everything. We need guidance. We need the know-how of how to deal with certain situations. And that know-how does not just come from an intelligent mind. That know-how has to come from people who have gone through it, people who can give us advice. Hey, this doesn't work. Don't try this. You go to a mechanic. Has it ever happened to you? You go to a mechanic, there's a problem, and you don't know what it is. You don't know what, even though you've been driving for 25 years, you don't know what the problem is. And guess what? The mechanic does not know either. But the mechanic is willing to find out, at your expense, of course. Let me first begin by changing this part. Oh, it's not that. It's still not working. Now let me go to this part. Before you know it, he's done a whole tune-up which you did not need, because you just had one done. And you just spent $800-900 until he finally figured out there was a small part called a modular. Anybody here remember what a modular is? I don't know if they have it in the newer cars today. They had it in the old cars. Next to the distributor, next to the cap, there used to be a small piece called a modular. Most people are unaware of that. It's a very small piece, doesn't cost that much. And that can, if that wasn't working, the car wouldn't start. The car wouldn't start. In other words, it would be going, running. And what do you think when what's the first thing you think when the car is running but not starting? Maybe we should change the starter. That's an expensive part, to change the starter. Maybe it's the ignition, maybe the battery, maybe the alternator, right? All of these things. Oh, there's a small piece in the back. Wouldn't it help to go to somebody who knows? Well, Baruch Hashem, I learned a little bit from my own car. I got to know my car. Come to the mechanic. Car doesn't start. Well, it could be this, it could be that. No. Leave everything alone. Please replace my modular. It costs $5. That part. Okay. You sure? Yeah. He replaces the modular and it starts. I told you. See, had I relied on him, he wouldn't have found it till the end of the day. And after many expenses. It helps to go to those who are knowledgeable, who know. Right? And that's why he's telling us over here, what I'm about to share with you is knowledge that is proven. I know it works, but it will only help you if you keep it in your mind, you preserve it. Because if you preserve it, there's a chance that you will apply it. If you just read, it won't go anywhere. And what am I trying to accomplish here? What do I really want to teach you besides all the good advice? There's one thing that I want to accomplish. Liot b'Adonai miftachecha oda'aticha yom af'ata. That you trust should be in Hashem. I have made known to you this day, even you. I want to teach you midat habitachon. Midat habitachon is trusting in Hashem, not just believing in Hashem. A lot of people believe in Hashem, but they don't trust. Why don't they trust? Because Hashem promised that He will give us parnasah. On Rosh Hashanah, He will decide how much we're going to make. And some people don't trust Him. They say, no, you know what? If I don't work Shabbat, I will not have parnasah. Because Shabbat is my best day. That's a lack of bitachon. Complete lack of bitachon. Why do they have this lack of bitachon? For a variety of reasons. But one reason is obvious. They never learned there's such a thing as bitachon b'Hashem. They may not have learned. So Shlomo Melech wants, amongst other things, to teach us, to train us in midat habitachon. And as the commentaries explain, Rashi says, the idea here is trust in Hashem, learn Torah, and don't ever doubt, don't ever think that because you let go of your business, you close your shop 1 hour early, you're going to have less parnasah. Be normal. Work 8 hours a day. Some people think they'll have to work 12, 13 hours, otherwise they won't have parnasah. Lead a normal life, come to the minyan, come to the shurim. Nothing will happen. If you have true bitachon b'Hashem, you close your shop a half an hour earlier to make it to the minyan, you're going to have the exact same parnasah. The only one who will accept what I'm saying right now is one who has bitachon. One who does not have bitachon says, no way. Now let me tell you a secret. Do you know that if somebody has bitachon, and he's also a very good man, a tzaddik, all he has to do is work 1 hour a day and he will have his parnasah. And I'll prove it to you. Most of you, I'm sure, know somebody who's in the diamond business. He sells diamonds. I'm sure most of you know somebody like that, right? Let me ask you something. How long does it take to sell a diamond? How long does it take to sell a diamond?
Depends what diamond it is.
No, a nice diamond.
Just a handshake. Right?
No, how long? Several weeks, months? It could be several weeks, it could be several months, but it could also be 5 minutes. The customer comes in, listen, it's my golden anniversary coming up. I want to buy my wife a 7-carat diamond. And the guy has money. 7-carat blue diamond. Anybody know here about diamonds? Clean. Not fake, not zirconian. Blue diamond or pink diamond. Pearl shaped. You know, shaped like a pearl. I'm sorry, like a heart. Like a pear. Expensive. No? 7 carats. That color, with that shape, that may be about $3,000 a carat, $4,000 a carat. Maybe even more, I don't know. He just made in 5 minutes what he makes in 3-4 months. Just like that. En Hashem atzor leoshia. There's nothing holding back Hashem from helping us if He wants to help us. If a person has true bitachon b'Hashem, it can happen. And I told you this once. There's an individual in the Asharim, in that area, who has a shop. All he sells is eyeglasses, the frames. He's only open from 5 to 8 in the afternoon. He learns in the kollel in the morning, and then after 8, of course, everybody closes. He goes home too. And everybody knows who needs eyeglasses, they come to him between 5 and 8. So why should he be open from in the morning? They all know to come between 5 and 8. That's it. Very simple. And he has his parnasah just fine. That's bitachon b'Hashem. No, if I don't open a whole day, if I don't work on Sundays, I won't make it. Shtuyot. All it takes is bitachon, but true bitachon b'Hashem. And that is one of the messages, at least one of the messages, the strong messages, that Shlomo Melech is trying to convey in these words. And then he adds a very important point, Alo katafti lecha shalishim b'moetzot v'da'at. Have I not written to you thirds with counsels and knowledge? Some explain that what that means is I have said this and repeated this 3 times. Torah, Nevi'im, Uktuvim. In other words, HaKadosh Baruch Hu has written, has given us this information in various parts of the Torah, b'moetzot v'da'at, with counsel and knowledge. In other words, the words that have been written are special, are important, are good. They're good advice for us. That's what the word moetzot v'da'at means. In other words, they have been very clearly expressed to us in many places of the Torah, these concepts. Therefore, go and find them. Go and learn them. Why does he tell us this here? Don't ever say, I was never told. Don't ever say, nobody showed me. I didn't know. I have gone over this many, many times in the Torah, in the Nevi'im, in the various parts of the Torah, you will find these concepts. And now we're seeing it in the Parshiyot that we just read. In Parshat Beshalach, Yitro, we're seeing about the man coming down in the desert to remind the Jews, Parnasah is coming from the Shamayim, not from your PhD. These are all similar concepts. In various parts of the Torah, Hashem repeats it again and again. The Nevi'im talk about it. And here Shlomo Melech reviews it with us, reminding us how important it is to keep these concepts in our mind. Next pasuk, Leodi'acha kosh dimrei emet le'ashiv amarim emet le'sholchecha. To make known to you the certainty of the true words, to respond with words of truth to those who send you. Is as follows. Through these words in Mishlei, through the words of the Torah, you will be able to know the truth. Leodi'acha kosh dimrei emet. You will be able to distinguish between what is true and what is false. When one learns Torah, when one learns the Gemarot, the Chumash, the Zohar, and he absorbs all that knowledge, all that musar, all that yirat shamayim from learning, he will have a better idea of what is right to do and what is wrong to do. What is emet and what's sheker. What is proper and what is wrong. Without that, the mind can convince someone that what he's doing is right. His mind is very, very good at convincing. Right? If one is biased, for sure. So therefore, learn the Torah, learn all of these chokhmot and etzot that you will find in the Torah, because this will help you, this will enable you to be able to distinguish between sheker and emet. And then once you know that, you will also be able to lehashiv amarim emet lesholchecha. There's two interpretations of this second part of the pasuk. It's lehashiv amarim is to respond with words of truth lesholchecha. What's lesholchecha? Some say lesholchecha means to those who come and seek your advice, those who come and want to know halacha, those who want to know what they should do. Well, if you have the truth, once you have the Torah, then you will be able to help others too and direct them to do the right thing. That's one pirush. This other pirush is lesholchecha. We talk about those individuals who will attempt to carry you away from the Torah, to mislead you from the derech of the Torah. You will be prepared to do battle with them. Lehashiv amarim emet, to respond to their questions, to their doubts. As the Rabbi tells in Pirkei Avot, "V'dama shetashiv lapikoros." You should be learned, so you should know how to deal, how to respond to an apikoros who's trying to, to get you to drop the mitzvot, to cool off, just like he did. Join me. And those who are ignorant can easily fall prey to those who are trying to convert them to another religion or to mislead them. So therefore, be armed, be prepared with imrei emet, with the truth, so you can also respond and defend yourself. Next pasuk, al tigzol dal, ki dal hu, ve'al tedaki ani bashar. Important pasuk, also a very famous pasuk. It's a very important pasuk. Do not rob a poor man because he is poor, and do not crush the poor man in the gate. This is, remember we talked about it a little earlier, about not taking advantage of the poor? And here he's going to explain what happens. Here he says it much more emphatically. Here he says, Al tigzol, do not rob him. Kidalhu, because he's poor. What do you mean he's poor? Well, because he's poor, he has nobody to help him out. He has nobody to defend him, nobody to speak up for him. And you know what? Because he has no one, Hashem will. So therefore, be extra careful, be extra sensitive to poor people, that you do not take advantage of them, you do not rob them, you do not cheat them. All of that is called lo tigzol. Even not paying them on time, if you owe them money, it's called lo tigzol. It's a form of gezel. There's a lot of ways one can steal. Overcharging, cheating, misleading. That's all a form of gezel. And be careful, because he is poor, and therefore he has no way to defend himself. Be extra sensitive to him. Ve'al tedakeh ani bashar. Neither tedakeh means to crush. That's the literal translation. What does it mean to crush? Do not embarrass him in public. Just because he's poor and you're rich doesn't mean that you should put anybody down. Some say bashar means in the gate of justice. Don't crush him in court. By making him go through the whole process and he has to go through expenses. Try to settle with him if he's a poor man. Basically, be very sensitive and be extra sensitive with those who are poor, because they have nobody to defend and to speak up for them. And you know what? As a result of that, since they have nobody, the next pasuk comes along and says, Ki Adonai yariv rivam v'kava et kovehim nafesh. Because they have no one to speak up for them, Hashem will plead their cause and rob those who rob them of life. So he says here several things. First of all, Hashem will take the lead over here in speaking up for them and helping them. He's the one that helps the orphans and the widows, because they have no one. And the same thing is here with the poor. He will fight for their cause. He will plead their cause. But what's interesting here is the second part. V'kava et kovehim nafesh. Kava is a very strong word. Hashem will rob those who rob the poor. He will rob them of their soul. In other words, they will die. The onish, the penalty for robbing the poor, is midah keneged midah, not money, life. Why life? Because whoever robs a poor man, it's like he's taking his life away. He barely has anything. You're taking from a poor man his money. It's like you're taking his life away. So the kava'et kovehim nafesh, the penalty for this is to take away their life. Chas v'shalom. The reason why Hashem gets involved, the commentators explain, is not only because they have nobody else to help them. Hashem immediately comes to their help, but also because the attitude of an individual who is robbing the poor is she'en din ve'en dayan. Nobody's aware, nobody knows, they won't know how to deal with it, nobody will come to help them. That's the attitude of somebody who's going into cheating them. He's basically assuming or make believe that nobody is going to help them. She'en din ve'en dayan. There's no justice. Hashem says, is that what you were assuming all this time? I'm going to show you that there is a judge and that there is justice. So there's a lot of things that Hashem immediately, and this not only in this world, not in the world to come, not only in this world, but almost immediately, within a week, within 2 weeks, within a month, that individual is going to get it. Something is going to happen to him, so that the individual who all along assumed that he can take advantage and rob the poor will learn a very quick lesson. That Hashem gets involved in pleading the cause of the poor. Next pasuk. Al titra et bal af vet ish chemot lo tavo. Do not befriend a quick-tempered person, neither shall you go with a wrathful man. Why? First of all, Shlomo Melech is indicating to us here that friendship, association with someone, influences one. One is influenced by his surroundings, by his environment, by his friends. Like the famous saying, tell me who your friend is, I'll tell you who you are. Why? Because when you befriend someone, you will adopt certain things from the individual, certain habits, certain expressions. That is how accents are formed. Accent. How do you know that somebody's from New York? Because he has a New York accent. Well, why does he have a New York accent? You know, all these Jewish people in New York are speaking like Puerto Ricans. Well, some like Italians or whatever. Where did they get it from? Because they all live in the same city. Yeah, that's what it is. Come from Iran? Oh, you can recognize. This one is speaking like a Yazdi. This one is speaking like a Meshhadi, right? Or from other parts of Iran. Because of the accent. Why? He's Jewish. Yeah, but that's the way the people speak there. The Goyim speak there. And that is why the pronunciation of Ashkenazim, Sephardim, Temanim is the way it is because of the surroundings. The Temanim have the least influence of all the communities in the world, because they were in one place since the Churban Bait Rishon, not Bait Sheni. Churban Bait Rishon. So they have the least changes in their pronunciation, least influence, but they still have some influence. But all the Ashkenazim, Hasidim, I mean, a lot of the original pronunciation was completely lost. Right? Everybody in the world, depending on where he's living, has some influence from the surroundings. American Jews, they pronounce the Hebrew differently than Latin American Jews. The surroundings influence. And that is why there's a big emphasis in the Gemara and in many of the Sefarim on being careful where you live, who your friends are, what school you send your kids to. Because you can't avoid it. It's very, very difficult to resist the pressure of that influence. So therefore he advises us when it comes to doing business. Now here he's talking about doing business because it's not just friendship. First he begins with al titra. Al titra is do not become friends, do not get too close to a person who's very temperamental. Vet ish chemot lo tavo. The second part of the pasuk is do not go with a wrathful man. A man who is always becoming angry. Wrath is even more than anger. He has a temper. Why? First of all, it's not a good idea to be around such people. Number one. It's not healthy. Second of all, pen te'elaf or chotav, the next pasuk explains, because easily you will come to learn from his ways, lest you learn his ways and take a snare for your soul. In other words, if you learn from his ways, what are you going to pick up from a wrathful man? You're going to pick up his wrath. You're going to pick up his kas. And you know that midat kas is a mokesh lenafshecha. Mokesh is a mine. He calls it a snare. In other words, it's a big trap. In other words, if one Khalila learns kas from his partner, from his friend, then he has adopted a mokesh. He has brought in a mokesh, something that will make him fall, will make him make many mistakes in life that he will eventually regret. Anger is a very, very dangerous midah, extremely dangerous. You lose complete control. You eventually regret what you did and what you said, and it's very difficult to repair. Now people really know you, right? You know, it's a real big problem between husband and wife, between family members. You may say things that you will come to regret. So being around such an individual is no good, because one can easily learn from his ways to talk the way he does, using foul language. That's what slang is all about. People hear how others talk, they listen to the music, they read the newspapers. Oh, this is English. My kids today, I talk a different English than what I was raised with. There's different kinds of jargon today in the 21st century. And we learned a different English than what people spoke 150 years ago too, you know. There's different terms. So we pick up, and we have to filter that which is no good from our language. Yes?
But the Lashon HaKodesh has no bad language, Rabbi. How do we reconcile that, you know?
Of course, today, it's all from Arabic. All the insults, well, the majority of them are from Arabic. Even the Persian ones, they take from the Arabic.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They have some of their own too. Yeah, but everybody borrows from the Arabic. The Arabic has some very powerful words, you know, and I definitely don't want to share them with you. So anyway, kas, anger, is a mokesh. It's a mine. In other words, it's a snare. It's a trap. It brings down people. It's a terrible midah, and being around, associating, or befriending, or being a partner with individuals like that, one is susceptible. One is, can easily become exposed and therefore adopt this habit, this dangerous habit. Next pasuk is a pasuk or an idea that we've seen several times in Mishlei, but very, very important, and he repeats it because, as usual, he always has something to add. Al tehi betok'ei chaf ba'orvim masha'ot. Do not be one of those who give their hands, all right, who stand surety for debts. All right, I'll give you my own translation. Don't be involved with those individuals who are in the business or in the habit of guaranteeing loans, or being a guarantor. Remember we spoke about this, being a guarantor, to be an Arev. Reuven is going to lend money to Shimon, but Reuven tells Shimon, listen, Shimon, you're a nice person, but I need guarantees for this loan. If you can't pay, that somebody will pay me the loan. And Shimon says, yeah, I have a friend called Levi who will agree. Levi, you agree? Yeah, I agree. That's silly, Shlomo Melech says. Don't do it. There's no mitzvah, there's no chiyuv, there's no obligation. Do yourself a favor, don't get involved, unless it's a very small amount of money. Because what are the chances of him not paying his loan? More than 50%. Why? Not because he's a dishonest man. Many things can happen. He could die. He can lose his job. He can move and forget about it. And guess what? The lender's not going to go after him. He's going to go after you. And he says, and you know what's going to happen to you? If you do not have what to pay, why should he take your bed from under you? Just ask Israelis what the banks do when you don't pay. That's what they do. They come and take mishkafcha mitachtecha. They come and take all your furniture. They don't care. They take away everything you own to try to pay off the loan. Why should you lose it? You worked so hard, put some money together, and you thought that you're going to be doing him a favor by guaranteeing the loan. No, you have no obligation to do that. Don't be involved ba'orvin masha'ot. What's masha'ot? Masha'ot are different kinds of loans. And what Shlomo Melech is saying here, what he's adding here differently, is that do not be involved in any form of promises, even if it's not monetary promises. I promise I will do this for you. I'll take care of this for you if it doesn't work out for you. Don't make promises that are not necessary. Don't make promises if you don't need to. Why? Because one cannot guarantee anything. A human being does not know what will happen an hour from now. Definitely not what will happen tomorrow, and for sure not what will happen a year or two from now. Can we guarantee anything? Can we promise? So be careful. Don't get involved in any form of masha'ot, any form of loans, any form of promises. Don't guarantee anything, because a person does not know what will happen. Do not trust in your wealth, and we've covered this in the past. Mishlei tells us, Shlomo Melech tells us, Boteach be'oshro hu yipol. Whoever relies on his wealth blindly, he will fall. In other words, somehow Hashem will make him fall. That is not right to do. A person should never rely, okay, I have several $1 million in an account, I have several pieces of real estate here, nothing will happen. Nothing will happen to him. Never trust in your wealth, because just about anything can happen. Look what happened to people who were in Rhodesia. You know where Rhodesia is? Today it has a different name. That country in Africa. Zimbabwe. Very good. In that country there were Jews like there are in almost any country in the world. Jews that made it very well. But once the black people took over, the Jews have to leave. The Jews had to lose everything they owned because they wanted to. You're going to distribute the wealth equally. Here they had all this money. They thought that they were safe. They thought that they have made it. No, nothing is guaranteed forever. New president, a new prime minister, a new ruler, inflation. You know how many Jews lost money, tons of money in Mexico because of the devaluation of the peso? And some of them learned very quickly, and they took out the money and put it in America. You can't trust. The next day your money is worth half. Could you trust the government here? Also not. And that's why they tell you, don't put your money in one basket. For that reason, because you don't know. We can't know anything. So therefore, be careful from trusting your wealth, from relying on one's wealth. Don't make any promises. One does not know what will happen tomorrow. What is that? Today?
Where?
No, that doesn't sound right. I think another country. Yeah. Maybe. Yeah. Next pasuk. Al tasek gevul olam asher asu avotecha. Also a very famous pasuk. Do not remove an ancient boundary that your forefathers have set. The simple meaning of this pasuk is when you're building a gate or a wall between two neighbors, don't put it on his side. Pushing the boundary further into his lot if the boundary was in a particular spot, right? That's a simple understanding of al tasek gevul olam. You cannot, the word in English is do not encroach. If you learn real estate, you will come across the term encroachment. To encroach is you're using part of your neighbor's ground to park your car. It's already his property. You're walking through his property to get to yours. Unless you have that access in the deed, you can't do that. Unless he gives you permission. That's an encroachment. Al tasek gevul olam. Do not push off, remove an ancient boundary. But the pirush that the rabbis give on this pasuk, that what Shlomo Melech really had in mind is, be very careful with minhagim, with customs. Al tasek gevul olam. Do not remove an ancient boundary. Takanot, decrees and customs that you had in the past. If your custom is not to eat rice on Pesach, like many Ashkenazim and like the Moroccan community also has, right? You don't eat rice on Pesach, right? Don't change that. There's a reason for it. They made it, that decree, for a reason. Keep it. You can't change the minhag. It's there for a reason. That's a boundary. It's a limit. Do not change it. Anytime a person begins to make changes, that's where conservatism and reform begin. To allow to make changes. But this is not the Torah anyway. It's more a rabbinical decree. Makes no difference. Al tasek gevul olam is coming to teach us that. You don't want to change anything. The last pasuk of the perek is Hazita ish mahir b'mlachto lifnei melachim mityasav bal yityasev lifnei hashukim. Have you seen a man quick in his work? Have you seen somebody who's diligent? Zariz. He will stand before kings, he will not stand before a poor man. Commentaries explain what we already know from the other Pesukim, that the Midat HaZerizut is a very beautiful and important Midah, the diligence. How much has he looked down, Shlomo Melech, on laziness, right? We've seen various Pesukim on laziness. Now he's extolling or telling us the praise of Zerizut. He says, if you ever see such an individual who's very diligent, very quick in what he does, you should know that Lifnei Melachim Yityatzav, he will one day stand before kings. What that means is that he will advance in life. He will get somewhere. People like that midah. It's not only a good midah for oneself. It's a midah that people actually appreciate. And what's involved in Zerizut, the commentators explain, it involves not hesitating too much and pushing off things, delaying them. It means once you initiate something, you complete it. You finish it. A lot of people begin something, but they don't finish it. You've begun something, make sure to finish the job. That's Zerizut. You're about to do something, don't delay it. Don't postpone it. Don't push it off. All these dechiyot, all these ikuvim, all these delays are a lack of Zerizut. And it's not good to get used to that kind of habit of delaying or pushing off or beginning something and not finishing it. You want to accomplish in life a lot, adapt the midah of Zerizut. Not only will you accomplish a lot, but also Lifnei Melachim Tityatzav. Lifnei Melachim Tityatzav, you will also get ahead in life. People will want to hire you. You will be advanced in your job. You will receive a promotion. Because everybody likes such a worker who works diligently, who works fast, who wants to accomplish. He gets a lot more work done. And that is a tremendous difference between one who's lazy, who doesn't get anything done. What a loss and what a waste. Whereas an individual who is quick, who is diligent, not only will accomplish, people will greatly benefit from him, and therefore they will want to have him as an employee. And that is why such an individual will advance very, very much in life.